And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China.
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing. Yes.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Want to say shalom lak, mash paka. Hope and pray that you guys had a great Shabbat. Pray that you guys had a great weekend. And I know that this is kind of like a last minute live here. I'm going to have to get back into the flow of things and start really posting these videos that I plan on doing, getting my schedule updated. So my apologies for those that are finding out about this live at the last minute. Many of you guys didn't have an opportunity to schedule and plan accordingly. So I'll get better. Just trying to get back into the flow of things, especially with Facebook, and not Facebook, but YouTube, doing everything it can to basically, in a nutshell, take down this channel. It really gets hard, trying to stay on schedule, because every time you turn around, I'm being restricted from doing things on this channel. And so many of you guys know that I just came, the restriction just was uplifted, that was preventing me from going live and that type of stuff. So want to apologize again for my tardiness as well. But we got a lot to cover here tonight or this afternoon. And I don't want to be long-winded with it. Just going to be straight to the point. And I will drop the link inside the chat for Jay High Style and for Sister Carol, for those that want to jump in. But I want to just deal with a few things here. And as you see, the lesson for today is dealing with the prophecy of Elijah. And as you see, the subtitle, it says, is he John the Baptist? And I want to share with you, absolutely not. Let me bring this up here. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I can't just say it. I can't just talk about it. I have to give you, clarity. I have to give you clarity. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. I know that I normally go through the shout outs, but we'll hold off towards the end because I want to just really get into this lesson and go from there. So like I said, my apologies. And for those that was trying to watch the presentation the past two Shabbats, and you guys seen some of the craziness that that this platform has been subjected to, from the camera angles to having notifications display just before I go live, as if I'm, we're doing something or teaching things that are out of scope, just a number of different things. So I am going to work on an alternative, even if I have to pre-record the lives and then update it or upload it rather, so that way you guys can be able to see the really see the full message, and not have to deal with the hindrances when it comes to the Shabbat. So with that being said, let's go ahead and give it, a garbage can for the things that this platform has been doing. Let's give it the bucket, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me just go ahead and give it the bucket. Here we go. All right, so let's make sure we add this platform to the bucket list. And I am working on an alternative, all right, for this platform, for this channel, as far as for We Woke Now, and for others that are truly getting frustrated with the restrictions on this platform. And the key, we got to own and design our own. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, it's a couple of things I want to touch on, getting back with the truth talk, and I'll get back with the words of confusion, get that going again. It's just a lot of, it takes a lot out of you when you have to deal with foolishness like this, for us in terms of the restrictions. And that there's other platforms that are doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and they are not being monitored. So again, our lesson for today, we're going to deal with the prophecy of Elijah. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we get started with that lesson, I want to do a little house cleaning. All right. I'm not going to do it all at this time, but I'm going to start some the truth talk, get this back and up and going. But I want to start off with doing a little house cleaning. And I'll make it a point every time we do a truth talk session, we'll do some house cleaning. All right. But I want to turn your attention to a post here from Facebook. Right. I didn't mention the person's name, but I want to share this post with you. All right. So house cleaning. This segment is called Stop It. Come on, Israel. We have to stop some of the things that we are doing publicly and even internally, because whatever you see out in public, these things are taking place internally. So we have to stop it. We have to stop with some of the things that we're doing as a people, that we're endorsing and allowing others to do, like mocking one another, making fun of one another, slandering and all kinds of crazy stuff. So today I want to share a post with you before we get started with the main lesson of one of the posts that was in my timeline on Facebook. Right here it is. Right. This is someone made a post bragging, celebrating. I broke the Sabbath. I worked and I cooked today. Now, who going to serve up the judgment, right, ruling, or whatever? Come on, family. Come on, family. Come on, family. This has to stop. This sounds like something that's from, and I'm not going to even put it all on everyone within Christianity, but you do have some groups that will make these type of posts bragging. So what is there to gain out of making a post like this other than trying to provoke or disrespect others? This is not biblical, family, and we should not tolerate this foolishness. This is not biblical. And yeah, this person is supposed to be awakened. Do this person or anyone that would make posts like this go around and brag about breaking the laws of this country, like speeding, in which you should have got a speeding ticket? This is foolishness right here. Help us, Yah. Help us, Yah. Help us, Yah. So let me just address this real quick. Let's start with Matthew chapter 4, verse 7. This is for those that don't believe in honoring the law, statutes, and commandments, right? This is for those that teach that the Messiah came to destroy the law. Whether you want to call it the law of Moses, the law of Yahweh, whatever labels you want to use. Let's start with Matthew chapter 4, verse 7. And this is what it says. Yahweh Shai, in other words, many of you guys will see in your text, it says Jesus, but Yahweh Shai said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt Nasa, Yahweh thy Elohim. Let me read it again. Yahweh Shai said unto him, this is dealing with Hasatan. This is dealing with the devil. And do you know there's a lot of devils, Hasatans, that's calling themselves teaching this truth or upholding this truth or teaching out of this holy text, our holy text. Thou shalt not tempt Yahweh, thy Elohim. Now, your translation will say God, right? But we know in the proper understanding of this text, the name of Yahweh is in this text. Now, this is the Messiah quoting these words to Hasatan. Now, where did he get these words from? Where did he get these words from? I'm going to show you here. So let's see what tempt means before I show you. All right. Nasa, to test, tempt, try. Try. That's the key. Family, all those that are parents here, you know, your children can try you. They can really get on your last nerves, right? In Israel, before Israel was finally banned, forbidden to go into the promised land, they tempted the Most High 10 times. The number 10, Yod, redemption. They tested and questioned his redemption of redeeming them 10 times. And they went from being referred to as a congregation or an assembly of witnesses to being an evil assembly. So Nasa, tempt, test, try. As you see here, put to the proof or test. All right. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 16 and 17. This is where the Messiah is quoting from. Contrary to what these New Testament only people, that's right, I'm going to say New Testament only, because you can call yourself teaching from selective passages from what many would refer to as the Old Testament. But if you're teaching that we're not to obey the laws of the Most High, the law, statutes, and commandments, you are a New Testament only keeper. But during the time of the Messiah, during the time when he walked this earth, there was no New Testament. They did not teach from the New Testament. Everything they taught came from the law and the prophets. So the Messiah in his wilderness experience, he's quoting from the law and the prophets, but specifically from the law. Ye shall not tempt Yahweh, your Elohim, as ye tempted Nasa, him in Massa. Ye shall diligently. Notice what it says. Ye shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim and his testimonies and his statutes, which he hath commanded thee. Verse 16 again. Ye shall not tempt Nasa Yahweh your Elohim. That is against the law. That is against the Most High. You're not just insulting Yah's people. You're insulting the Most High. You're not just insulting the Most High. You're insulting his son. You're insulting the Holy Spirit, period. All right. Let's define this word delight. And I'm going to tell you why I posted this word. It says here, desire, a valuable thing, acceptable, things desired, pleasant, pleasure. Let me read it again. Desire, a valuable thing, acceptable, things desired, pleasant, or pleasure. So let me put this in the proper perspective. Let's go to the first book of Psalms, verse 1 and 2. Bless. Now notice you see in this text, you don't see Barak. So family, anytime you see the word bless, don't make the assumption it's dealing with Barak. In other words, to salute or kneel down. In this particular text, especially when you go throughout the books of Psalms, the different books of Psalms, you will see this word ashar. Bless is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight, kapats or kapatizah, is in the law, thara or thawarath, right? Or some would just say Torah in the Israeli pronunciation. But we see here, thawar or thawara, however you want to pronounce it, right? I'm not going to get into all the different pronunciations. Sometimes I try to quote the different ones that recite the different ways that many people pronounce this. Like I said, Torah or thara or thawara. I'll just stick to that. All right. But nevertheless, but his delight is in the law of Elohim. And in his law doeth he meditate day and night. Now, let's break this word down real quick. Blessed. It says this, right? And I'm going to do a whole teaching on the book of Psalms, right? In terms of Psalms 119. I put together a detailed lesson that I teach for the Hebrew classes I teach internally at our assembly, right? And I broke down each letter because 119 book of Psalms is categorized by each of the Hebrew letters. So anyone that is speaking against the commandments of the Most High don't understand his language, don't understand the very first letter. So the very first letter is the alap, which means teach. It means authority. It means leader. Right? And notice ashar, the very first letter is the alap. So notice what it says for ashar. It means to be straight. It means to go forward. It means be honest. Relieve. Let me read it again. Ashar. And I'm pronouncing it in the ancient Hebrew, ashar. Right? To be straight, to go forward, be honest, relieve. Now let's bring it all together, right? This is the Hebrew definition of Torah, the word Torah, or thara or thawara. All right. But nevertheless, the Hebrew definition of the word Torah, right? Law that you see in this particular text, a precept, statute, especially the Decalogue or Pentateuch, right? When you get the term instruction, because a precept or a statute are what instructions on how to carry out the commandment. But that's a whole nother discussion. So let's bring this all together with Psalms 1, verse 1 and 2. But starting with just focusing on Psalms verse 1. Straight and honest is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. That's what that first line says. Straight and honest is the man. And we know this is not dealing with gender specific. This is dealing with all Yah's people. Straight and honest. So anyone who teaches contrary, who teach that we don't have to honor the law, statutes, and commandments, they are not straight and they're not being honest. Anyone that thinks that it's okay to mock, they are not being straight and they're not being honest. All right. So I just want to do a little house cleaning, and we'll start touching on little things like this as we get ready to get into the main teachings. So family, again, we have to stop allowing this type of stuff to be spewed among our community. It's time for us to start taking accountability, our own accountability, to stop endorsing this type of stuff. All it does, it makes it harder when you're trying to teach the truth to those that really want to learn. That post, just the way it reads, is that it comes from someone that has to be very immature or young-minded. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the main lesson here. Let's deal with the objectives for this particular lesson, Truth Talk. We're going to deal with and we're going to explain, is John the Baptist the prophet Elijah? We're going to explain the prophecies of the forerunner. I want to give you 3 key prophecies. So before we get started, let me explain, and actually we're going to explain on reincarnation, but I want to deal with purpose first. All right. I want to deal with purpose first. Okay. So let's deal with purpose. And this is why we see so many problems among our community is, and when I say our community, I'm not just limiting it to the Israelite community. And I want to make this clear. Being an Israelite is not a religion. This is culture. This is our ethnicity. This is not a religion, right? But those that are in Christianity, those that are in other religions, Israelites that are into other things, that goes against the Most High. But the problem is purpose. And I shared that our Shabbat when I taught this lesson about how when I was a young minister, how there were an elder that came to me that said he was leaving the ministry of where I was because the pastor was hindering him from operating in his purpose. And I asked a simple question. I asked him, "What is your purpose?" And this elder could not tell me or explain what his purpose is. And there's so many within our community that don't understand their purpose. So what does purpose mean? All right. This is the etymology of the word purpose. Interesting. When you go all the way down to the bottom here, you see poser, right? So intention, aim, goal, objective, to be kept in view, proper function for which something exists, and aim, intention, to put forth, to put, place. So again, intention, aim, goal, objective, to be kept in view, proper function for which something exists. So what is your purpose, Israel? What is your purpose? Family, your purpose is not to make someone else's lives miserable. Your purpose is not here to mock others that is trying to get it right. Your purpose is not here to slander and name call. The Most High did not call any of us to do so, to try to publicly shame our brothers and sisters. That's not your purpose. That is not your purpose. So again, what is your purpose? Hebrew definition of purpose. It says to put, appoint, bring, call, in other words, a name, charge, commit, determine. Family, and John the Baptist understood his purpose. Daniel understood his purpose. His friends understood their purpose. And when you understand your purpose, guess what? You will make a difference. You will make it a point not to compromise. You will make it a point that you will not go against the things of the Most High. Like Daniel purposed, all right, to put. He put in his heart that he will not defile himself. He charged himself. He committed. He made sure he was totally committed. He was determined. All right. So let's get into the lesson here. Is John the Baptist the prophet Elijah? Right. I answered the question, but I'm going to explain. I'm going to walk you through. Let's deal with 3 biblical prophecies. We're going to start with the first one. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3 through 5. This is what it says. The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, Madabar, prepare, Panah, ye the way, Darak, of Yahweh, make straight, Yashar, in the desert, a highway for our Alahayim. I'll read it one more time. The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of Yahweh, make straight in the desert a highway for our Alahayim. Verse 4, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. Verse 5, and the glory, kabod, of Yahweh shall be revealed, galah, right? Shall be revealed. And all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of Yahweh hath spoken it. All right. So prepare. We're going to hone in on this portion of the text that I highlighted. Prepare ye the way of Yahweh, make straight. So the Hebrew definition of prepare, panah, let's see what it says. It says to turn, to face, prepare, respect, have respect, respect to, turn, return. Right? So this is, I hope this helps you just understanding this portion of the text. Right? I hope this gives you clarity when you hear the word prepare from a biblical perspective. It means what? Turn to face, prepare, of course, respect to, turn or return. So this is John the Baptist, right? That's his purpose. Let's confirm this. Matthew chapter 3, verse 1 through 3. And I encourage you guys to write these scriptures down or go back over the video and make a note of each verse or each text that I highlight and just confirm it, confirm it and read it in the full context. So in those days came John the Baptist preaching in the wilderness of Judea and saying, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In other words, the authority. For this is he that was spoken by the prophet Isaiah, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare, panah, ye the way, panah of Yahweh, make his paths straight. Panah, right? Make his, and actually, way here is incorrect. It should be darak. Right? I put panah. That's incorrect. Right? So again, prepare ye the way, darak, of Yahweh, make his paths straight. So John the Baptist understood that he was called to what? Prepare the way. All right. So remember, pana means to turn. It means to turn. John chapter 1, verse 35 through 37. Let's confirm this. And, again, the next day after John stood and two of his disciples, and looking upon them, Yahushua, as he walked, he said, behold, the Lamb of Yahweh. Guess what John did? He turned the attention from himself to the Messiah. He turned the people that followed him to the Messiah. Remember, that's what we said, what prepared means. Let's double back here. Let me go back to the Hebrew definition of prepare. Let's go back here. Right? Pana, prepare, to turn, to face, prepare, right? Have respect to, or respect to, but have respect to, turn, return, right? So when we go back to the text here and read it again, we see that John the Baptist is fulfilling his purpose. He is fulfilling his purpose, right? It says, verse 1, for this is he that was spoken by the prophet Isaiah, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness. Prepare, in other words, turn to. That's what it is. Notice what it says. Turn to ye the way of Yahweh. Make his path straight. In other words, he's going to be declaring, for the people to turn their ways back to the Most High. And you're going to see how he's going to turn the attention to his son, the Messiah. Prepare ye the way of Yahweh. Make his paths straight. All right, so let's go back here. Again, this is verse 35. Again, the next day, after John stood and two of his disciples, and looking upon Yahushua as he walked, he saith, behold, the Lamb of Yahweh. Verse 37, and the two disciples heard him speak, and they followed Yahushua. So he understood his purpose was not to bring the attention to himself, but to direct the people to the Messiah. Once he was the Messiah was revealed to him, he didn't even know that it was his own cousin that was going to be the Messiah. So he turned the people from himself, the attention from himself, to the Messiah. And the two disciples and when it says two disciples, his disciples, John had disciples. So two of his disciples that heard him speak, they went from following John to following the Messiah. So John himself acknowledged that he was not the Messiah. This is coming from John chapter 1, same chapter we're in, verse 18 through 20. Notice what it says. No man has seen Yahweh at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he declared him. And this is the record of John, when the Judeans sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who art thou? So they were all watching and paying attention to the power, the authority that John operated in. So the high priest, because these priests can't go without being sent. So the high priest gave them the okay, the instructions to go inquire about whether or not if John the Baptist is the Messiah. Is he declaring to be the Messiah? Who is he? Sort of what the Jewish community does to our community whenever there's a community, especially when we deal with the different tribes within Africa, those that it comes to the forefront of being blood descendants of Israel, they send teams out to confirm it. That's a whole nother discussion there. They sent a team out to the Limbas. They sent a team out to the Igbos. They sent a team out to every one of the different tribes that have proven to be blood descendants of Israel. They sent a team out. All right. Verse 20. And he confessed. He confessed, ha thawadah, and denied not, but confessed, ha thawadah, I am not the Messiah. I am not Mashiach or Mashiach. I am not the Christ. Takes a lot of humility. A lot of leaders don't understand this principle right here. See, they have to have everything in their name. They have to be in front of everyone. You know, you could tell those that are all about themselves, their ministry is named after themselves. Pastor such and such, home of such and such ministries. Sounds like the secular playbook. This is why I stopped, as I shared at our Shabbat. I used to be, I used to love the group Guy, the New Jack Swings. I really used to like them until Ted Riley changed the name to Ted Riley featuring Guy. And you see that with a lot of groups. That's why they broke up. Individuality came to the forefront. And many leaders have taken this same approach. Pastor or evangelist or apostle such and such featuring whatever ministry, home, but they'll say home, not featuring, home of whatever ministry that they're functioning or have started. I've never gravitated to that delusion. I never thought that was cool. That's why our ministry is titled Passion for Reconciliation, all biblical. All biblical. Right? So we see here John the Baptist had, so much momentum was going. So many people were paying attention to what he was doing. He could have easily said he was the Messiah. But this tells you what integrity that he operated in. He confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Messiah. I am not the Messiah. I am not Mashiach. I'm not. See, John literally preached in the wilderness. Let's go to Mark chapter 1, verse 3 and 4 to confirm this. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of Yahweh, make his path straight. John didn't baptize in the wilderness. John did baptize in the wilderness. Excuse me for reading it incorrectly. John did baptize in the wilderness and preach the baptism of repentance for the remission of sins. Wait a minute, but he's teaching baptism and the remission of sins? He's teaching this before he even knew who the Messiah was or is? Yes, Israel, baptism and for the remission of sins existed before this event right here. Being baptized with the Holy Spirit that took place a number of times. We got plenty of text to prove that. Being born again, yes, it was so many that was born again. It's not something that was created or started in what many would call the New Testament. All right, so John did baptize in the wilderness and preached the baptism of repentance for the remission of sins. So John fulfilled the prophecy given to him by his father, right? His father, Zechariah, right? This is Luke chapter 1, verse 76 and 77. And thou child shall be called the prophet of the highest, for thou shalt go before the face of Yahweh to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation unto his people. Unto who people? His people, Israel, by the remission of their sins. So is John the Baptist the prophet Elijah? Let's go to another prophecy. Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. Let's see what it says. Behold, pay attention. Behold, Gala, revealed. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Yahweh, whom ye seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith Yahweh of hosts. So the Messiah confirms that John the Baptist, right, fulfilled this prophecy. He confirmed that John the Baptist, he fulfilled this prophecy. Matthew chapter 11, verse 7 through 10. And as they departed, Yahushua began to say unto the multitude concerning John, what went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken in the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. Let me read that portion again. Yea, I say unto you, making it clear that John the Baptist was more than just a prophet. You know how, unfortunately, we're living in a day and time, we have a lot of our brothers and sisters are downplaying the positions, the roles that others are playing by saying, hey, we don't need titles. Trying to ridicule those that are using the title pastor, using the title elder, using the title minister, whatever it may be. But I don't see them saying anything when Jeremiah referred to himself as a pastor, a shepherd. See, we got to stop majoring in the minors, family. Because again, when you start going against titles, when you start going against names, guess what? Ultimately, you're insulting the Most High. Now, does that mean that you just don't try or test or, whomever? No, you test them with the word. But your test is not from a perspective that you're trying to get them to fail. It's from a perspective that, hey, you want to make sure that they are who they say they are. All right. So, but what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. For this is he, dealing with John the Baptist, saying he's more than just a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. So is John the Baptist the prophet Elijah? All right, let's go to the third piece of prophecy. Remember I said I'm going to share 3 prophecies with you. Let's go to the third prophecy. Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 and 5. It says, remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel, with these statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. Now, anyone that says that John the Baptist is Elijah, guess what? You have a problem. Because John the Baptist is not Elijah. John the Baptist, he is not Elijah. He was not Elijah. So is John the Baptist the prophet Elijah? Absolutely not. The Messiah gives the answer. He gives the answer. He answers this question Let's go back to the same text that I highlighted prior to the showing you the third prophecy. Matthew chapter 11, verse 11 through 14. Notice what it says. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. It goes on to say, verse 12, and from the days of John the Baptist unto now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. And I know all you former Kojic people know this scripture, because when I was in Kojic for almost 10 years, this is the verse we quoted. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by, and everyone would scream out, force. Right? Just having a little Kojic moment there. All right. So anyway, let's go to verse 13. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. But notice what he said in verse 14. And if ye will receive it, this is Elijah. You see Elias, but Elijah, which was for to come. So the Messiah tell you that John the Baptist is Elijah, but he's not saying that John the Baptist is the birth. He is the physical Elijah. That's not what he's referring to. And he's not the spiritual Elijah. Let's make it clear, because those are some terms that's tossed around so much. Oh, that's spiritual. Or that's flesh. Or, you know what? We need to get clear and stay clear of that stuff. And that's going to be one of the words I add to our next session of Words of Confusion. Spirit, spiritual. Because so many throw those words out there, especially when you coming out of the church. Spiritual. So John the Baptist is not the spiritual Elijah, nor is he the physical Elijah. Let me prove it. If ye will receive it, this is Elijah. So is John the Baptist the reincarnated prophet? Elijah? No. Let's clear it up with this word here. Reincarnation. What is it? Let's explain it real quick. Reincarnation. Literally refleshing. Right? Same spirit, right? But refleshing. That's what reincarnation means. Refleshing. The basic Oriental view of cyclic rebirth after each death. The original meaning of being born again. Not in our Hebrew culture, right? When we dealing with Hinduism, right? To be reincarnated is taking the same spirit and putting it under different flesh. Taking the same spirit, right? And according to when you study the religion of Hinduism, they teach, right? And we're not dealing with the westernized, but prior to this westernized version that they modified, they teach basically you keep going through this cycle of living, right? Successive lives, right? Whether it's a human being, whether it's an animal, whether it's a rodent, whether it's an insect, right? You keep going through this cycle until you learn whatever ultimate lesson you are supposed to learn. That's not our Dabar HaQuadash. That's not our culture. Let me continue to read this. In the role of fate goddess, the great mother governed the wheel of becoming, which meant the cycles of successive lives. When you see fate goddess, that is where you get Lady Luck from. That is the lottery. That's where you get that roulette table and all of that, the wheel of fortune and all that. That's what this is referring to. The fate goddess, the great mother governed the wheel of becoming, which meant the cycles of successive lives. like the wheel of karma governed by Kali. Guess what? Karma is not a biblical term. Karma, that is coming from the fate goddess. Her name is actually Fortuna or Fortuna, which you get the word fortune from. Also, she go by Lady Luck. That's why you have the black spaces and the red spaces. That's all there for a reason, the odds and the even. But anyway, I'm not getting into all that tonight. I'm trying not to go geek mode. You guys trying to make me go geek mode here tonight. Sister Carol, all right? I'm not going geek mode here tonight, all right? But that's what reincarnation is, right? Taking that spirit and giving it flesh, refleshing, cycles of successive lives, right? Going, one life after another, one life after another, one life after another, same spirit, one life after another. That's what reincarnation is. So is reincarnation in the Bible? No. Born again is there. Here's John chapter 3, verse 3 through 7. Yahushua answered and said unto him, he's having a discussion with Nicodemus. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of heaven. Nicodemus said unto him, how can a man be born again when he's old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb? Reincarnation, right? He's like, can he enter a second time? Can he go right back into the womb and be born? So the prophecy of Elijah is not for him to be born again. When you see that prophecy that I highlighted, for him to have a physical birth again, the Messiah is not coming back through a physical birth again. We're not dealing with reincarnation, right? We're dealing with resurrection. There's a difference. But anyway, can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? So reincarnation is going back through the womb process of being born again, right? No, that's not what resurrection is. Okay. That which is born of the flesh is the flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I said thee, ye must be born again. All right. So John is not the reincarnated Elijah. He's not the reincarnation of Elijah. All right. Want to make that clear. John is not he's not the reincarnated Elijah. All right. So John operated under the same authority as Elijah did. That's what it means. The Messiah is not saying that John the Baptist is literally Elijah. We're dealing with the authority. He was prophesied to be what? The forerunner. John the Baptist to be the forerunner, operating under the authority of Elijah. Let me prove it. Luke chapter 1, verse 17. All right. This is what it says. And he shall go forth before him in the spirit and power of Elijah. Right? Under the authority. This is not saying he's going to, the spirit of Elijah is coming on him and taking on flesh, no, we're not dealing with reincarnation. He's operating under the same authority, just like Elisha, his double portion. So, and he shall go forth in the spirit and power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the father to the children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for Yahweh. Here's the Greek definition of the word power, dunamis. I know you guys who grew up in church recognize this, the explosive, you know how you guys have heard this before. The dunamis power, that explosive power, that power that just blows up, that power that just blows up and destroys everything, that authority, anyway, I'm having some flashbacks of being in Kojic. All right. So dunamis, force, power, miracle, ability. That's the key. When you start understanding authority, you start understanding that when you have the authority, you have the ability to what? Do. You have, as you see here, the strength to do. Right? So the mighty work, the mighty wonderful work, that's what dunamis means. But let's go to the Hebrew definition of power. Right? Kach, right? Or you see here, koach, that's the Israeli pronunciation of it, right? But it's kach, right? But it means to be firm. Let me say that again. The Hebrew definition of power means to be firm. But notice what you see here. Ability, able. You see force, you see fruits, you see might, power, powerful, strength. But the key here is the ability to be able to do. That's what it means. That's what it means. When you have the Holy Spirit, you're getting the what? Ability to do. That's a whole nother discussion. But the key is ability. That's what it means. Ability.